many of you that have known me here at the club, many of you know that I'm a baker. And as a baker, I have to work long, grueling hours, and I'm always fascinated with flour because I have to work with it. I mill it fresh at the bakery early in the morning, and sometimes it requires me to work as much as 18 to 20 hours a day, depending on how much bread we need to make, because it's all done by hand. And it's people often ask me, like, why I became a baker, and I usually tell them it's because I need the dough. Which, by the way, being a baker, you will learn more puns than any other career you've ever had. Like, you'll start telling people that the principles of being a good baker is about rising to the occasion because it's the least you can do, or how you're done making donuts because you're sick of the whole thing. Or my personal favorite, what's Mario's favorite bread? Durham, Durham, Durham. Okay, I'm done. I mean, why not, right? Okay, so having to have worked so many hours and just work so closely with wheat, I feel like I'm a slave to wheat and flour. Now, you may be thinking, you know, that may be true for a baker, but me, I rarely buy flour. Hell, I don't even bake bread very often. I might have never even stepped foot in a wheat field. Well, just hold on now. That's what the wheat wants you to think. So now I'm going to tell you the story about how a simple little grass growing in the Middle East had convinced humans to do all of its bidding and enslaved humanity. But first, I will start with a story that you might have heard before, such as back during hunter-gatherer times, Homo sapiens, early humans, were struggling, competing against each other, constantly battling for survival and fighting for their next meal. And it was just a grueling, terrible mess. And then eventually we became smarter, learned the secrets of nature, and found out how to domesticate sheep and grow plants so we could trade our grueling, tireless lives as hunter-gatherers to be satiated, fulfilled farmers. Who here has heard that story before? Of how hunter-gatherers lived a very difficult existence compared to farmers. Well, that is a completely misguided notion of the whole thing. In fact, there's no evidence to support that we became smarter since the agricultural revolution. The anthropologist Yuval Harari has said that the agricultural revolution is history's greatest fraud. I mean, think about it. Imagine yourself as a hunter-gatherer wandering through the forest, pro magnum. You are stalking your prey. You're about to hunt down a gazelle. Your brain is a catalog of all the poisonous and edible plants. You map the stars by memory so you know all the migration patterns and work with the seasons. You were a skilled craftsman that could make tools out of essentially nothing. You were basically an all-around badass. You were the original Renaissance man. You had to be able to do everything. But then we became farmers. And we basically traded an interesting and exciting life for manual labor. I mean, who here has worked on a farm before? If you've ever worked a day on the farm, it sucks, doesn't it? It is hard work, and even with technology, it's just long hours and grueling work. Imagine how awful it might have been back 70,000 years ago, or even 5,000 years ago. It is just terrible. So how did this happen? Well, it turns out that early Homo sapiens stumbled across this grass that only occupied a small patch in the Middle East, and it was able to give them something that they really liked. They discovered that it could feed them and supply them, put them in a state of satiation. What do you think? What do you think this thing that they discovered would be? What they could give them? You're thinking bread, right? It's actually beer. This was happening in the Middle East, but then in Asia they discovered rice. This other grass that they were able to make something out of this grass too, that was able to give them something they wanted. No, it wasn't fried rice they wanted, it was beer. And then in the Americas, they found this other grass, corn, teosinte, the original ancestor of corn. They were able to make something with this that made them want to continue to cultivate it. No, it wasn't tortillas, but it was beer. So we finally decided to settle down because we found this plant that gave us what we want. That is right. I am telling you that civilization was founded by alcoholics. It was a terrible idea, definitely a decision of drunk apes. That is what happened, and it's unfortunate. because anthropologists have taught us that the average work week of a hunter-gatherer was only 3 to 5 hours a day. Why would we trade? That's kind of like saying you wanted to stop being a Navy SEAL for a desk job. That's just awful. That's a tragedy. And now let's look at wheat's perspective, evolutionarily speaking. So evolutionary success means basically trying to pump out your DNA as far as the eye can see. And basically, if you think about it, for wheat was just this tiny little grass in a small patch in the Middle East. And now you can't even go anywhere without seeing it. It's in parts of the world that it doesn't even grow because it told us to put it there. Wheat didn't like stones and gravel, so it made us freaking shovel the stones and gravel and move it away. We burnt down and committed genocide on other plant species because wheat doesn't like to share its water, resources, or space with other plants. It made us break our backs by carrying water from, giving our clean water to feed the wheat. It even made us recruit other animals to help plow fields to make wheat successful. And it even made us pick up their crap and make the ground full of nutrients so we could survive. We had to protect it day and night from disease, from other animals, because wheat can't defend itself. This is almost like a relationship that you would have with a pet, or something even worse than that. I mean, we're basically doing the bidding of this grass. I mean, what's going on here? What does wheat give us in return? Now you may be thinking, okay, well, a steady meal, right? We were struggling to get meal. Well, think about it like this. The analogy I like to give is like the difference between someone who's just an employee at a job and someone who has a well-rounded stock portfolio with a Roth IRA, a 401k, and just a bunch of stock options. Who in the recession is going to be more prepared? That's a rhetorical question. So if your wheat field that you worked so hard to plant died of blight or worms or got eaten by locusts, you were a dead man because you had no other way to harvest food, you had no other skill. So in conclusion, I want to just relay the fact that wheat has enslaved us, and that domestication comes from the Latin word of dominus, which means house. Who's living in the house? It's not the wheat, it's us. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Seconds.
Yes,